You ever just get the feeling that politics is, well, broken? That no matter who you vote for, the system itself just seems designed to fail? We're going to dive into a perspective today that says, yeah, it is, but it also offers a truly radical redesign for how we should even think about politics and what its one single job should be. So let's explore this blueprint for a politics that might actually work.
I mean, it's a question that feels so incredibly relevant right now, doesn't it? You see all the disillusionment, people not even bothering to vote, this general sense that things just aren't working. But what if I told you this isn't a new problem? Not by a long shot.
According to the framework we're looking at, this isn't some 21st century bug. The feeling that politics is fundamentally broken, well, it's a timeless feature, practically baked right into our history.
Just think about it. You go all the way back to ancient Athens, the birthplace of democracy, and they were already writing about corrupt politicians and demagogues. Then you jump to the 20th century, and you see political systems unleashing destruction on a scale that's just unimaginable. And now, today, we're swimming in this global sea of distrust and inaction. It really does seem like every era has its own flavor of political failure.
So what gives? Are people just inherently bad? Does power always corrupt? This perspective offers a totally different and frankly, way more interesting explanation. The problem isn't that people are bad, it's that we've had a fundamental misunderstanding, a kind of blindness, about what politics is even supposed to do. Right? We always blame the usual suspects: corruption, greed, some deep flaw in human nature. But this idea says no. We've all been operating with this intellectual blind spot for centuries. Politics fails because we don't even see the correct path. We're all politicians and citizens alike, just kind of fumbling around in the dark.
This famous line from Cicero is held up as a perfect example of this ancient confusion. By saying the public thing, the res publica, is the thing of the people, we immediately start asking the wrong questions. The argument here is that we first have to define what the public space actually is on its own terms before we can ever hope to manage it properly.
Exactly. So if we've been using the wrong map this whole time, what does the right one even look like? Well, the answer starts with a huge shift in how we see the world. It asks us to see that we don't live in one world, but in three distinct coexisting spaces.
Okay, this is the core of the whole idea. We have to imagine our world divided into three fundamental spaces: the natural, the private, and the public. And understanding the difference between them, well, that's the key that unlocks this entire theory.
So first up, you've got the natural space. This is the realm of pure, unadulterated freedom and risk. Think of a vast wilderness or the open ocean. There are absolutely no rules, no safety nets, no guarantees. It's where adventure comes from, but it's totally unstable.
Now, in complete contrast to that, you have the private space. This space is all about one thing: security. It's defined by boundaries, fences, walls, property lines. Its entire purpose is to protect people and allow them to accumulate goods. It is, in its very essence, the opposite of the natural space's total freedom.
And this brings us to the crucial third area, the public space. This is the interface, the thing that connects the other two. It's secure and regulated like the private space, but it's open to everyone for passage and exchange like the natural space. It's made up of what are called works, things like roads, public squares, our languages, even the basic infrastructure of the internet. These things exist to help us interact, not to be owned like private goods.
So let's just lay it all out. The natural space is pure freedom and risk, and it's regulated by, well, nothing. The private space is all about security and property, and it's regulated by the market. And that leaves the public space, the realm of openness and exchange. And what regulates it? Politics. And that's the connection. That is the single solitary job of politics, to be the regulator of the public space. Okay, so if politics is the official regulator of the public space, what does that actually mean in practice? Well, this framework gives politics a radically focused and very limited mission.
And here it is, the big takeaway from this entire framework. Politics has one and only one legitimate job: to build, to manage, and to protect the public space. That is it. It shouldn't be trying to control nature, and it has to stay out of the private affairs of the market. Its sole focus is maintaining that public realm that allows everything else to function.
So what does that look like? Well, its job is to maintain the roads, our shared languages, our digital networks, to make sure they are open and safe for everybody. And a really critical part of this is guaranteeing that anyone can always leave a private space, say quit a job, and still be able to exist in the public space. But just as important is what it should not do. It must not interfere with the market, And it must prevent private interests from walling off the public sphere, like when essential infrastructure, say the digital highways of the internet, becomes controlled by just a few private companies.
Okay, this is a really fascinating theory, right? But what on earth would it look like in the real world? The proposal that flows from all this is, well, it's concrete, and it is genuinely groundbreaking.
So the solution is not welfare. It's not unemployment benefits or pensions. This framework argues those are just band-aids that come from politics overstepping its boundaries into the private sphere. The real solution is something called a universal offer of public work. The state's one duty to its citizens is to offer work to anyone who wants it, work that is specifically for building and maintaining that public sphere we've been talking about.
And here is the kicker. The calculation is that with modern technology and productivity, a small amount of public work, just 1 day per week, should be enough to provide the income needed to cover all of a person's most basic needs. 1 day.
And the way it works is incredibly simple. First, the state offers this work. It never ever imposes it. Second, you are always completely free to accept or decline it. Third, if you do accept, that 1 day of work gives you enough to cover your basic needs. And fourth, the other 6 days of the week are entirely yours. They are free for you to pursue private work, to start a business, to study, to create art, to do whatever you want.
Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds, well, utopian, right? The author actually embraces that word, but with a very specific meaning in mind.
It's called a utopia, not because it's some impossible fantasy land, but something because it's a vision that doesn't exist right now. It's a blueprint for a different path, one that its proponent believes we could actually take after our current systems, maybe inevitably, lead us to another crisis.
So, let's just sum up this pretty radical vision. First, you redefine and strictly limit politics to its one true job, managing the public space. Second, you use that role to guarantee every single person's autonomy and ability to survive. And third, you empower people by completely changing the old conflict between work and leisure into a real choice between public work and private activities.
And that really leaves us with a fascinating final question, doesn't it? It takes this whole grand political theory and makes it incredibly personal. If your basic needs were met by contributing just 1 day a week to the public good, what would you do with the true freedom of the other 6? What would you build? What would you create? Who would you become?